Sit back and listen to this extremely interesting story.
Perdy sat in her car. She was dressed in a short black skirt and blue blouse. She was meeting User, a new builder she recently started dealing with. He had given her a call out of the blue one day and told her he was a friend of her husband's. She wasn't sure how he had met User, but he seemed like a nice enough bloke on the phone. She needed to generate extra income to cover some of the expenses of her upcoming trip back to Malaysia. For some reason, she felt really nervous about the whole thing. She felt like she was about to go on a first date. She looked in the mirror and slapped her face a bit. It was only a business meeting, and she had only spoken to him on the phone, but for some reason, she felt extremely nervous about the whole thing. "What am I doing?" she asked herself. "I don't know anything about him, yet I just drove 50 km to meet a complete stranger who said he knew my husband from God knows where." She sighed. "Oh well, I'm already here. I better go meet this guy." She revved herself up again, tapping her face, then opened her car door and stepped out. She was wearing high-heeled leather boots. The uneven pavement made it hard to walk. She nearly tripped and twisted her ankle, so she began walking slowly towards the building. It was a large nondescript red brick building. It had a sign that said User Constructions. It was hanging off one hinge and about to fall off. Perdy knocked politely on the door. She heard someone talking inside. She waited a bit, then the door opened. She looked up and she liked what she saw. He was a tall man with dark hair, dark eyes, and a square jaw. She felt a thrill when he smiled. The man looked her up and down, his mouth curved into a smile before he spoke. "Hi, you must be Perdy." He stepped back to letting her inside the building, gesturing for her to come inside. "Yes, I'm Perdy." She smiled at him. "Come on in." He motioned for her to follow him inside the office building. She followed him down a long hallway. They stopped just outside a closed double door. "Is this where we'll be having the meeting?" she asked. "It is." He replied, nodding. "This is your office?" Perdy queried again. "Yes, Perdy, I am not going to ransom you," User said as he laughed, turning towards the door. "Here we are." He gestured for her to enter after opening the door. Perdy entered first. User followed shortly after before closing the door behind them. The room was a large open-plan styled office. It had a little kitchenette off to one side. There was a large desk by the main window facing the street with two guest chairs on the other side of the main desk. A filing cabinet in the corner behind the main desk. There was also a double-glazed coffee table near the side of the room surrounded by cushions and pillows. Perdy found this coffee table setting quite odd, but she didn't think to mention it to User. "Please have a seat. I'll get us something to drink." User pointed to one of the two leather guest chairs. He moved to the kitchenette area, pouring Perdy and himself a glass of water each. "Would you like something stronger than water?" he asks. "No thanks, water will be fine," Perdy replied as User moved over to his seat to sit down. Taking a sip from his glass before speaking, "So your husband told me you're a really skilled architect." "Yes," Perdy replies as she pulls her portfolio out from her bag. "And what sort of work do you specialize in?" "I design and project manage builds for contemporary styled houses and multi-unit lots." "Perfect. Well, I have a few houses I need designed and built, so your husband recommended you to me." He smiles at her with glee like he knows something she doesn't. "I'd love to." She smiled back at him. "So if I run through with you some ideas of what I want done, can you come up with a great design for me?" He asks. "Sure, absolutely." She replied, excited. "Great, so how long will it take?" User asks. "Depends on how much time you want me to spend on it. That will dictate how much effort I put into it." She replies, "Well, I hope our relationship will become a blossoming one, so take all the time you need and design me the best one for the budget. I think I can manage that," Perdy says, winking at him. User stood up and walked over to the filing cabinet. "I've got all my plans here. Just tell me what you need and I'll make sure you get it," he says proudly, pulling out a folder and handing it to her. "I've got a lot of land, and I want multiple houses built on it," User said as he sat back down. "How many houses did you want on this lot?" Perdy asks, looking at the plans, assessing them with her keen eye. "Well, I think there's room for 4. I'll sell the other 3 and keep one for myself," he replies. The land is about 1 acre. meaning 1/4 acre for each house. That's enough, right? Perdy's eyes bulged. It was more than enough, and she was typically squeezing 3 units into a 1/4 acre. Sounds good. I'll draw it up within a week and email you some sketches and dimensions to start the consultation. Perdy replied in her most professional manner, which made her pout with pride. Okay, great, now let me show you the rest of my office. User gets up and leads her down the hall to another door. This is the bedroom I usually sleep in when I'm working late or too tired to drive back home, he says as he opens the door and escorting her in. Very nice, user. Perdy says, but why are you showing me a bedroom? To show you that I like to keep things neat and tidy and sometimes I can't separate work from pleasure, he says, winking at her. Oh, okay, Perdy says, a little confused. So what do you think? He asks. It looks very nice and clean. She replies, good, I'm glad you like it. Usher and Perdy return to the office room, Perdy standing by the guest chair where she had been sitting before. Usher walked across from her and sat on the other side of the table. He gestured for her to do the same. Perdy leaned forward and sat down, straightening her skirt. She lifted her leg to cross it over her knee. As she sat down, all Usher could do was watch Perdy. He felt a great excitement. The smell of her perfume was doubly intoxicating as it wafted over him, making his excitement even stronger. User walked straight out of the room and into the bathroom and locked the door behind him. User thought she hadn't noticed his excitement. Perdy chuckled softly to herself before delving into the design documents on User's desk. Meanwhile, in the bathroom, User quickly used the remedies at hand in the hope that it would relax and calm him down. It had no effect. He stopped resisting, looking at his reflection in the mirror. He took out his phone when he saw a message from Perdy's husband, Ian. Ian had sent him videos of Perdy spending time with him and a short video of her making someone happy. He played the video on low volume, fantasizing about spending time with his petite, beautiful architect wife. His fantasy continued until he felt himself getting closer to satisfaction. When it was all over, he got dressed again, washed his hands, and went back to the office. Perdy spread out the papers on the large coffee table and studied the old plans carefully. She was standing with her back to User, showing off her great figure. She looked up innocently from this position. Are you okay, User? She asked. Yeah, I'm fine, he replied. That's an interesting position you're in. She looked up and stopped, realizing that she was standing quite exposed, reached up and pulled her skirt down. It seems so. I'm almost done, so I'll go home to dinner, said Perdy. Did you want to come out to dinner with me instead to celebrate this blossoming business relationship? Sounds great. I'll let my husband know I'm not coming home for dinner then, Perdy replied. She picked up the phone and began to text Ian. Hey honey, don't wait up for me, I'm going to be late tonight. I'm working on something and it might take longer than expected, she wrote. Her husband replied with a thumbs up emoji. What would you like for dinner? User asked. I'm easy, surprise me. Perdy replied, I hope you're easy as I'd like to eat you for dinner. User muttered under his breath. What was that? Perdy replied, going back to the plans on the coffee table. Oh, I said it was easy. Let's go to dinner at the pier. I'm making reservations now, he said, trying to hide his excitement for the second time. Okay, she said nonchalantly, not paying him any attention. They spent the next half hour finishing up the initial designs and measurements. Do you think this will get through council easily enough? User asked Perdy. Yeah, it should, but who knows these days, she replied. Okay, fair enough. I'll send some more rough sketches tomorrow or day after, she said. Great. User went to the bedroom and returned a minute later. He had black cocktail dress in his hands. It was a rhinestone halter neck dress. Embossed around the chest and neck were rhinestones which glittered in the sunlight. User handed the dress to Perdy. I'd like you to wear this tonight. Why? Perdy asked. Because in your business attire you're too stiff and professional. Let's relax and enjoy ourselves tonight. It's a friend of mine's dress and I think you're about the same size. I'm not so sure, but I'll try it on, Perdy said, eager to please and also excited about wearing something nice. For a change, excellent, you can change in the bedroom I showed you earlier. Sure thing, Perdy said, heading towards the bedroom to change into the dress. Perdy walked over to the bedroom with dress in hand, her handbag in the other. There was a huge mirror facing the bed, so she stood in front of it, stripping off her skirt and blouse and ankle boots. She turned towards the giant mirror and reflected upon herself for a moment. She was 5 feet 3 inches tall, about 125 pounds, and of quite a solid build, curvaceous in some areas. Her waist was small at 28 inches, while her hips were 34 inches wide. She pulled herself together this morning. She put on the dress and fastened it in the back. User was right, she fit perfectly. She felt so beautiful in this dress that she looked at herself in the full-length mirror before going to the bathroom to fix her hair and reapply her makeup. She went all out this morning, even wearing false eyelashes and applying red lipstick. On the bed was a box labeled Perdy. She opened it and found Love 100 Jimmy Choo shoes that matched the dress. They were a size 6, 5 her size. She sprayed more of her Beyonce Kissed fragrance, placed her neatly folded work clothes on the bed, and returned to the office. It took some getting used to, but she was used to walking in shoes. She opened the door to the office and User whistled. Perdy blushed. Wow, you look amazing. Your husband is missing out. Thanks, so do you. Perdy replied back. User had changed into a suit matching hers and he scrubbed up quite nicely. Let's go, he said. User offered her his arm as they walked to his black Mercedes Julie wagon. It took about 30 minutes to get to Pier 69. Perdy noticed User sneaking a look at her. She smiled at him, enjoying the admiration. The Pier 69 was an exquisite seafood restaurant known for its freshest seafood. As they walked up together, they were seated straight away. The other patrons watching them thought that they were celebrities or something. Could I get you a drink to start off with, ma'am? The waiter asked Perdy. Yes, I'll have a glass of sparkling rose, please. Me too. User said to the waiter. Good choice, it's sweet like you. User said to Perdy, grinning. Stop it, Perdy chided, laughing. What do you think of this place, he asked. It's very nice, she said. Yeah, it is. He said, I've been here a few times, but they say the company makes the food taste better. Thank you, Perdy said, blushing slightly. I hope you enjoy your food tonight then. I plan to. I've other things in mind for dessert, though. After User and Perdy devoured their dinner consisting of fresh oysters, lobsters, and mussels, they were finished with some aperitifs by the lounge area next to the open fireplace. Perdy, tell me more about you. I want to get to know you. User said. What do you want to know? She questioned. Everything. What special skills do you have? He said. Well, I'm 42 years old. I live in a $1.5 home with my husband and 2 young daughters. She started saying. How long have you been married? He asked. Nearly 10 years, she said. Wow, 10 years old. How close are you and your husband? Perdy paused, the alcohol going to her head. It's okay, she stammered. What's up? How often do you hang out together? Once a month, maybe. Once a month? OMG. How do you survive? Does he satisfy your needs? He pleases me well, but I would like better. Perdy said she didn't know why she was telling her husband's friend. Why did you marry him then? User asked. Because I love him and he loves me, but also cause he was the first guy to knock me up. Hick. Perdy said as her speech began to slur. Are you happy with him? He's very loving and caring, she said. What else? He has a great build and knows how to play to his strengths, she said. Have you ever spent time with anyone other than him in the last 10 years? User asked. Perdy was shocked. Did he know about Lloyd? It had been about 6 months since she brought Lloyd into her house and everything in her life had changed. Young told him, yes, one other guy. She started to blush just thinking about Lloyd and what had transpired with him the last 6 months. How long has it been since you last saw him? He asked. Within the last month, she said. And? He asked further. And nothing, she said. Is he better than your husband? He pressed further. Yes, she yelled, although she didn't understand why. Why? User pressed her further. Oh my God, User. Why do you want to know? Because he has more advantages, that's why. Perdy shouted. The whole restaurant turned around and all eyes were on them. Perdy turned her face away from them, facing the fire instead, blushing. Are you still seeing him? He asked. Perdy was frustrated with his line of questioning, but she knew user was going to continuing asking, so she might as well tell him everything. What's the worst that could happen, right? Yes, we met last night, had a great time and enjoyed ourselves. Where do you see each other? Ian is out of town on a business trip, so we're spending time in my double bed. It was good. You loved being in the matrimonial bed with him, didn't you? Yes. Ah, Perdy, you are a beautiful wife, or are you abandoning your husband? I must be a beautiful wife. My husband spends time with Lloyd's wife. Did you expect to see more men than just Lloyd? God, I want to. Lloyd, you are too attached. I don't need another man, I see. User said with a big grin on his face. Well, what do you think about me? He asked her. We've only just met today, but you're decent enough. She replied. Why don't you show me your advantages? He asked. What? She said with a shocked expression. Because I'd like to see them. He said calmly. Why? She asked. Because I want to see if you're as incredible as you seem. He said. I don't know. We're at this fancy restaurant. Everyone was already looking when I yelled before. She said, hesitating. Go ahead. We're in a booth. They can't see us if you stay below the couch line. The alcohol was definitely talking, as she normally wouldn't even consider this request. Okay, she said hesitatingly. She complied with his request and removed the top part of her clothes, showing off her wonderful qualities. Here, see, she said. She felt a thrill as she did so. She had never been shameless. But something about it bothered her. She slid out of the booth and walked over to the restroom. When she returned, User had moved to a more secluded spot of the lounge area of the restaurant. User waved to her. Come over here, Perdy. He called her over. What's up? I really want to see it. I want you to show me all the beauty. He ordered. I can't do that here, she exclaimed. Why not? It's too public, she said, just for a few seconds. No one will notice. Keep low, User suggested. Perdy walked over to User, and when she turned to face him, he pulled her in and held her close to him. Perdy blushed when she sensed User's excitement. She looked around the restaurant and made sure that no one could see her. She showed herself to the User in all her glory, and he appreciated it. You're a pretty obedient little wife, aren't you? He held her against him once more before letting her get dressed. Perdy was shocked. She didn't know what to think, whether she was embarrassed or excited. She never thought she would do something like this. She was crazy in her youth, but not like this. Not in public. It was always behind closed doors in the dorms. I'll take you home tonight. I'll give you some cash and you can go shopping and start dressing super nice for me every time we meet, he said. Okay, what's so beautiful? She asked. No matter what you think I'm going to get excited about. You're my second wife now, he ordered. She didn't know what that meant, but she felt as if she was compelled to listen to him. It was if he had a hold on her. She felt he could command her to do things her husband or even Lloyd could not. Hey, second wife, he ordered. In response, Perdy was worried. Yes, she replied, let's get out of here. He said. He held her hand and they got up and left the restaurant. It was dark outside and there was a slight wind, so they quickly walked to his car. User reached out, grabbed her and hugged her tightly, then pressed her against his car, kissing her. Let's go back to the office, he said. What are we going to do there? She asked. Let's spend time together. We will make it so that you will never forget it. But, she started to say, SSSHHHH, don't even say anything more, just come. He whispered. Okay, she said shyly. I have that bedroom in the office, remember? Oh yes. Perdy said as she thought about the bedroom. It was covered in mirrors on 3 sides of the bed. They arrived back at User's office building. Once she was inside, he told her to wait at the coffee table while he went to the bedroom to retrieve something he said. After about 5 minutes, he returned to the office and put a bag on the coffee table and turned to her and said, This is the money I promised. Now get undressed. Perdy hesitated at first, feeling uncomfortable looking at the money, but something in his voice made her do as she was told. She followed the order and walked over to the couch and sat down again, trying to cover herself with pillows. User walked over to her and said, Perdy, you're a very beautiful woman. Thank you, she said, blushing. Now lay back on the couch, move those cushions off, he ordered. What? Why? She was sobering up a little. Just relax and let me do everything. he said as he removed his clothes and then stood in front of her. He pleased her slowly, step by step. "Oh God," she moaned, "you're so sweet." He said, "Please stop," she begged. "No," he said, "I want more." "Oh God, please stop," she cried. "You love it, don't you?" he asked. "No," she yelled. "You do." He replied back. "I do not. You are a bad wife." He offended. "Stop it." He continued to pleasure her, making her enjoy herself and squeal. She tried to push him away, but he held onto her legs and wouldn't let her move. "You like to please people, don't you?" he asked. "No." She yelled. "Don't lie, you love it, beautiful." "No." She yelled at the top of her lungs. Even though she was screaming no, she really wanted to continue. She couldn't believe she was doing what he told her to do. She liked it when she was insulted. It excited her. "You look like you want to please me right now, don't you?" User exclaimed. "No," she yelled back. "Say, wife, tell me what you want to please me." "I want to suck, do it," she said. Louder, he demanded. "User, I want to make you pleasant." Perdy shouted. Before she finished this sentence, he prepared to fulfill the wishes. She skillfully made him happy. "That's it, my beauty, make it good." He shouted, "Yes, yes." Perdy said he was getting close to pleasure. She could feel it. She liked the feeling when he was pleased. She was proud of herself. They did not stop. User ordered to continue, and they passed the time watching themselves in the mirror. He wrapped his arms around her tightly and could feel her getting close to pleasure. He liked it. He wanted to see and feel her pleasure as soon as possible. "Oh," she exclaimed, "yes, yes, I'm close." She screamed. User continued to work until they both felt pleasure together. He was glad that she allowed him to be unprotected. Perdy collapsed on top of him tiredly. They lay there for a while, about 30 minutes, before he rolled her onto her stomach. The smell of their recent conversation excited him and made him want to try something unusual. As he started, Perdy felt a sharp pain. He was cautious at first, letting Perdy get used to the new sensations. Then he became more lively, which she liked and she enjoyed several times. He spent time with her as his property. Didn't care about her opinion. He was in his element. Soon he too was satisfied. He had dreamed of doing it ever since her husband Ian sent him the pictures. He reached for his phone and took a picture of how they were spending their time. He sent 3 photos and 2 videos to her husband showing what they were doing in his office. Ian was asleep when the messages came. When he saw that it was from User, he opened it and felt a thrill. He was happy for his wife. She was finally satisfied, but he couldn't help but be jealous since she never let him experiment. He started pleasuring himself by looking at the pictures and videos. He was so excited that he quickly got over it. He cleaned himself before going to bed. Perdy was lying on her stomach, turning to face Usher. She smiled at him. User looked at her and smiled back. He liked her smile. User stood up watching her. She had a great figure. He couldn't believe she was 42. "Let's go wash up and get dressed," he suggested. "Okay." Perdy responded, getting up. They went into the bathroom and showered together. They played with her. He liked everything about her. He felt himself drawn to her, intoxicated by her appearance and smells. He wanted her only for himself. He wanted to make her his little toy. They finished washing. Usher put on his shorts and then watched Perdy get dressed. She was tired and trying to get back into her business attire that she had worn during the day. She looked at User and smiled at him again. "I'm glad I came back," she said, giving a kiss on the cheek. "I'm glad you're back too." User responded, giving her one last hug. With that, Perdy left User's office and got into her car. She drove home and went straight to bed. She fell asleep quickly and slept soundly.
Subscribe to our channel so that your second C gaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.